sure I don't leave anybody in the waiting room. All right, so welcome. My name is Ryan Knight. I'm here to help you through the Youth Opportunities Fund. We're gonna do the test grant, although there are 4 grants that Ontario Trillium Foundation has open right now. So really quickly, I'm gonna show you. So if you go to otf.ca and hover over our grants, you'll see they have within the Youth Opportunities Fund, they have the Youth Innovations Test Grant. There's a Youth Innovations Scale Grant. There's also a Family Innovations Test Grant and a Family Innovations Scale Grant. So the differences between the 4, and I'll go from the bottom up. So the Systems Innovation Grant is not open right now. That one we'll talk about another day, but Family Innovations, just to give you an idea. So through the Family Innovation Stream, the Youth Opportunities Fund recognizes the impact that healthy and resilient families have on the future success of young people. So this one is between, well, up to 3 years, and you can get $150,000 per year. Now, if you go to the test grant, this one allows you to go between 1 year to 3 years, and each year you can get 100,000. For the scale grant on the Youth Innovation Scale Grant. So this one is when grassroots work is successful, young leaders can find themselves wanting to build on the foundation that they created alongside their communities. So successful local projects tailored to the needs of youth can resonate in ways that require a scaled up response to continue to meet the demand created through trust and collaboration. So this stream, you can do a minimum of 2 years up to 3 years and a maximum of $150,000 per year. But the one that we're going to be talking about today is the Youth Innovations Test Grant. So this one, you can do a minimum of 1 year up to a maximum of 3 years. And so this is for grassroots work, which is community-led and community-designed, sharing identities and lived experience. So it's essential to building relationships with those benefiting from the work and help set the stage for grassroots groups delivering impactful local projects. So the principle of delivering projects that are led by and for priority populations that will be benefited from this project is the key requirement for the Youth Innovations Grant. So if you're able to follow along, I will put this link into the chat for you. So make sure to put it in. So this is the link that you want to come to follow along. Soon, sure. You will want to come to this login screen, and you're gonna need to create an account so that you can actually upload the application. And I'm already logged in. Let me see if I can log out so that you can see what I'm talking about. All right, and this link I'll also put into the chat. So that way, and you'll see over here where it says create an OTF account. So if you have not done this already, please take a few minutes and do this now. So for example, we would put Knighthood Academy. So if you're not registered just yet, it would just be the name of your organization name, preferred language. This is where you're gonna put your contact info. Uh-oh. Oh, I think it's trying to log me in.
Sorry, Ryan. Do I
Yes.
go into the login section? How do I get into that area?
To the right, there should be, it says create an account.
Oh, okay, to log in. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I think because I'm logged in, I was trying to log me out. All right, so right over here, do you see where I'm showing? And then if you click on create an OTF account, you'll then be able to fill out this section. Oops. English. All right, so you're gonna put in your contact details. And then the signatory contact, unless you're writing this on behalf of somebody else. So there could be a person at your organization that is the signer. If that's a different person, you can put them. If it's the same person, oops, then you can put them. All right. So when you hit submit, it's gonna send an email to you, and then that email has your login info. I think if I hit submit, it'll say I already have.
She upset some people completely.
Oh, you all right, Ryan? Or you have a question? All right. All right. So once you hit submit, you're gonna get an email, and that will have your login information. So when you come back to this login page, you would put in your login info. So before we get into that, we're gonna do a brief overview. Oh, this is the capital grants of the test grant, so you know a bit more details about it. So again, this grant is specifically to support youth in the community. We're gonna go over some of the priority areas, but for now, the Youth Innovations Test Grant is designed to help groups try out new ideas that have the potential to make a positive impact on the lives of young people. You can also do research to learn and understand more about a specific topic or an issue. And you can also bring youth together to discuss and explore new approaches collectively. So they do have an additional, so they do prioritize Black and Indigenous grassroots organizations and groups, but they also prioritize youth living with intersected lived experiences. So youth in conflict or at risk of being in conflict with the law, youth in care or leaving care, so that's foster or CAS, Children's Aid Services, the youth at risk of dropping out or have dropped out of school, youth living with disabilities and or special needs, and again, between the ages of 12 to 29, and two-spirit, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer and or questioning, intersex, asexual, 2S, LGBTQIA plus youth. So if you're working with any of these youth in the community, this is who this program has a high priority for. So keep that in mind. Also, keep in mind the deadlines that are coming up, and this will give a bit of timeline to what to expect when you're applying for this grant. So the expression of interest is the first step. So you're gonna submit an expression of interest. It's due April the 17th, which is in 4 days. So if you're on the fence about writing this grant, time is ticking. So I would say decide today, start to work on it, and then over the next 4 days, you're in good shape to get it done. So you would be notified if your expression of interest is accepted to go to the next round within 6 weeks. So if we do the math, if April 17th is when it's due, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So by the end of May, I would say May 29th, you would know if you're going to the second round. So one thing that you do have to remember, since you're going to be applying as a grassroots organization, which means that you haven't incorporated at all, and you're just a core group of people working on a project, you do need an organizational mentor. And even also if you are registered, but your operating budget is less than 50,000, then they still do consider you a grassroots organization, and you would need an organizational mentor. So what an organizational mentor does is they act as the trustee for the funds that you're going to get from the Ontario Trillium Foundation. So they sign the agreement with the funder, which is OTF. They receive the funds on your behalf. They then disperse it to you. They do take an admin fee, and then you would report to them how you spent the money, and your organizational mentor, the trustee, reports to the funder how the money was spent. And you're also in charge of doing your own reporting for the funder, which, I mean, we can talk about that when you get funded, but just keep that in mind. Your organizational mentor isn't going to do all of your reporting for you. They just report the financials, but you still have to do your own reporting. So you'll see after you get to the second round, and just quick, I don't want to go too quick. So if anyone has questions about organizational mentor, feel free, because I'm not going to talk about it again. So just in case anything was confusing, I don't want to go too quick. All right. So after you go to round 2, oh, and I'm not looking at, if anybody has their hand up, I missed it, sorry. So when you get accepted into round 2, so like we mentioned, it'll be about 6 weeks after this deadline. So think of it around May the 29th, you would know if you're able to submit your full application. That's going to be due on July the 10th by 5 o'clock. So now you would find out if your application is approved within 8 weeks after this grant deadline. So if we do some more math, so July 10th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's about September the 4th. So by September the 4th, you would know if your grant application was approved, and then the start dates for all grants is November 1st. So between September the 4th and November the 1st, the funds for your grant would be dispersed within that month. So you're going to sign your agreements, sign your organizational mentor agreements, and funds would be dispersed to your organizational mentor, and then you'd have to work with them to get funds dispersed to you before November 1st. So if you're trying to coordinate how your project and when the money is coming, November 1st is when projects typically need to start. So expect funding to come in about 2 weeks or a week before November 1st. So plan accordingly. We are in April. So April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. That's 8 months away. So this grant is not something that happens really quickly. It does take time, but again, it's one of the bigger grants. So it is important to get your applications in so that down the line, the project, a lot of times we're already doing the work, but this allows you to get funding and for multiple years. So let's not miss it. Let's actually get our applications in. All right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to share with you a template that I use so that you can see the actual, oh my gosh, I need to close some of these. Templates, my web templates. This is the filled out one, but I want to give you your own template to use so that you can start answering questions. Okay, here we go. All right, so I'm gonna put this into the chat and you can view it. And what you'll do is come to this top part where it says file, and then you can make a copy. And then that copy, similar to what I did over here, where it's like grant template, and then you put your name. So after you make a copy of it, you can name it what you want to name it. You can take out template questions, or you can leave it. And then you'll be able to answer the questions based on your organization. So you could take a moment just to make sure you come in here. And so first, I'm going to walk through the portal so you see what it looks like in the portal. But then these questions are all the questions that are in the portal, because it's difficult. You can't actually, it's not as difficult to work in the portal because it does save pretty well. But I like to work in a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document so that you can answer these questions And then these questions that you're answering will really become the blueprint for any grants that you go for in the future, because this is typically as extensive as a grant gets. I haven't seen many other grants that are more, more intense than this. Like, it asks you pretty much all the questions that you need to understand for your project. So other grants that you find, you're now going to have all of those questions already answered. And with our Grant Hunter University, the online course that we teach is pretty much helping people do this type of front-loaded work. Like, you answer all the questions that a grant is going to ask, and then you have that blueprint to use so that any grant that you find, you get it done. And to take you back almost 10 years, this is how I started with Knighthood Academy, the company that I was, well, it wasn't a company. So I have a business called Detailing Nights, and that is a car cleaning company, and it actually started to teach youth entrepreneurship. So when it was teaching the youth entrepreneurship, we kept trying to get grants, and we realized as a business, we wouldn't qualify for this grant, but we pulled out the training, created a grassroots organization, partnered with a nonprofit, and was able to apply just with the youth training, just with the youth entrepreneurship training, and get funded. So that's the kind of process I'm going to walk you through. And then that funding that we got and the application that was successful became the blueprint that we use for a lot of the other grants that we get. So I know it's going to look like a lot of work, but I promise you it's worth it, because you don't want to be doing this type of work from scratch every single time that you find a grant application. So with that said, I'm going to now, so anybody that just came in, we're working on this document. I did see a question, would a company incorporated in Manitoba be eligible for the grant? So not this specific grant. I would encourage you, it's still good to have these questions as a template, but it is focused on Ontario. But I know, was I working? Oh, that was Edmonton, no, Alberta. So I would check to see what grants Manitoba has specifically for youth, but I would assume it's very similar questions that they're gonna ask. So I would still use it as a template, but for this specific grant, no, it wouldn't be, you wouldn't be able to qualify for this grant in Manitoba. All right, and so I did put the template link in here. Again, just to remember, you can come here, make a copy. Then we're gonna start going through the questions. If it's not letting you copy, let's see, what error are you getting? Because you should be able to see it. When you click file, what are you seeing?
Sorry, so hi there, Ryan, how you doing? When I click file, make a copy, and then it prompts you to rename it. It then goes to, sorry, unable to open the file at this time. Please check the address and try again.
Okay, just try and refresh. It should. Yeah, let me test what's happening. Test. Yeah, it might just be a connectivity issue.
Okay. And then on the original one that you sent, the link that you sent, when I click on that, it says request edit access.
Right, so you wouldn't need edit access for this one.
Okay.
You would just need to make a copy of it, and then you can edit it.
Okay. I'll keep trying. Thanks.
Yeah, if it stops, if it's still not working, put your email into the chat, and then I'll just add you to this new one that I made.
Okay.
If that works too.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because I don't have this document. I was having some issues with my password as I was setting up my account. So should I just put my email in this chat to get this document?
Yeah, and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, okay, great.
All right, so yeah, for anybody else that's having trouble making a copy of it, feel free to put your email into the chat, and I'll email you the copy. All right, so one of two things, you can if you already have an account, you can follow along inside the portal. If not, you can follow along in the Google document. You will see there might be a couple questions that I didn't put in the document just because of spacing, and it's really a question that you can answer right off the bat. So let me log into this thing. All right, so when you come into the portal, you're gonna see it shows the different grants that are available here. So it has the youth innovations and the family innovations. So the family innovations, if you are a group of adults, then, and you don't have youth in your core group, it's probably better to apply for the family innovations. If you do have youth in your core group, pretty much ratio 1 adult to 2 youth max, or 3 youth, the youth innovations is the best one. If you have, let's say, 2 to 1 or 3 adults, then you might want to look at the family innovations, because the youth innovations, you do have to have youth leading the application. So in the core group of 3 or more, there needs to be majority youth in the group. So if there's 3, there does have to be a minimum of 3. So 2 of them do have to be youth, and you as the adult can be a partner, but not majority. And the button here will say apply now. So for myself, you'll see we have this one already open. So we'll hop in, and this will give you an idea of what to expect. So you'll see the countdown is going, so 3 days left. It will be for the test grants. It is piloting a new idea. And then gonna go to next. So this is where it's gonna ask you the group name, your address, city, province, postal code. All right. And then primary contact, secondary contact, and then is the primary contact for the group under 30 years old? So you say yes or no. It does ask you for the online presence. So any social media or website links that you have, you can put them in here. They do ask about your group structure. So either you are a grassroots group that is not registered as a charity or as an incorporated nonprofit, or an organization that is incorporated as a nonprofit without share capital. And I think they say, so you can be incorporated, but you do have to have less than $50,000 budget, or if you're a First Nation organization. I see a raised hand. Mark, do you want to go ahead?
So I was just wondering, for my situation, I am seasonal and a sole proprietor. Would this automatically disqualify me from the family and obviously the youth?
Right. So it wouldn't be, remember, it's not your business applying. It's the community work that you want to do. So if you have an idea for what you want to do with youth, then that's what you're applying for. Give it a name, and it becomes its own grassroots organization. And then if you're going for the Youth Innovations Grant, you do have to have at least 2 other youth that you're working with. If you're going to do the family innovations, then it can be you and a couple other adults.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. And then it is going to ask you about your group's experience, so how it was formed and your connections to the community. All right. And we'll go to next. And so here it's asking, so the core members in your group, it's going to ask what lived experience do they have? So you can check off any of these here. So this you're not going to see in the Google document or the template. You'll just be able to check that off when you get to it. And then the core group table is where you're now going to talk about each of the members of the group. So you'll notice in the templates, when we get down here, so the core group members, all of these questions, you need to do it 3 times. So it has it here once. So you'd put the group member's name, their age category, how long have they been part of the project, are they arm's length, any experience, and then you'd copy it and do it again. So actually, I should probably do that. So we put like core member 1, and then we'd have core member 2, and then we'd have core member 3. So you're gonna answer those questions at least 3 times. If there's more than 3 core members, then feel free to do it again. So if there's 4 or 5. But those answers that you do in the Google Doc, you're then gonna come here into the portal and click on plus. You're gonna put the core member's name. So let's say it's Jasmine Knight, and then her email. You're gonna put their age category under 29, how long have they been part of the group and what their role is, and then explaining their shared experience. And then you go to the third one. So one thing to keep in mind, if 2 of the group members are family related, there's supposed to be a question here that says arm's length. Where's the arm's length question? I don't see, oh, here it is, yeah. Are they arm's length? But it doesn't ask that. So in this answer, you're supposed to let them know if the person's arm's length. So if they're related, it can't be 50% or more of the core group is related. So if there's 3 core members and 2 of them are related, that would disqualify your application. If there's 4 group members and 2 of them are related, that would also disqualify your application. So if there's going to be 2 related core members, there needs to be at least 5 core group members. Otherwise, there can only be 1 person and 2 others, and all 3 of them have to be at arm's length and not related. And yeah, if there's 4, still only 1, there can't be 2 related out of 4. So keep that in mind as well. If you're gonna have team members that are part of your family or less than arm's length, that will disqualify your application. All right. What is the significance of the age 30? So the youth definition that they use is, I believe it's 12 to 30 or 15 to 30 or 29. So if you're 30 and above, they do not consider that a youth person. Arm's length, that is anybody that's related, I believe brothers, sisters, parents, cousins might be arm's length, within arm's length. So they can't be within, I think, 1 degree of family separation. Yes, so arm's length is not related. But I think second cousin is like arm's length enough, but that gets into detail. So this is where you would do this for your 3 members. And again, so I wouldn't be able to be one of the core members if there's only 3 and my daughter is also a member. So you have to make sure that all 3 of them are arm's length away. All right. So we're gonna go back into, so after you finish the core group table, and again, I would encourage you to do it in your Google Doc first. Reason being, after you submit this application, finding all of this information is more difficult going into their portal to extract it. If you have it in a Google Doc or a Word document, it's always going to be here. So when you find the next grant, or even if you're doing this grant again, you have the information to plug in, so you're not starting from scratch. So when we go back to the portal, you can click on next. And now this is where you're going to go a bit deeper into the actual project idea. And then you're going to list the major activities that your group will deliver. And they give you a bit of prompts. So how are you going to deliver these activities? How often will they be? How many primary beneficiaries do you intend to engage in each activity? So this question might be tough to answer off the top of your head, but the next template that I share with you allows you to flush out the full project and your budget so that it's easier to then come to this and answer the question. But if you already know, like if you've been running your program and this is something that you do all, or you've written other grants that have explained it, you're good to go. You can start to answer that. And they do want to know what needs or issues is your group trying to address through the project. So this is where, hey, what are the systemic barriers and issues that your target group or that your group is trying to address for your target population? Are there things in your community you're interested in enhancing or protecting? And are there gaps your group is trying to fill? And then it does ask you about the project location. So whether you're going to be within the GTA, and that does include Durham, Halton, Peel, and York, but does not include Hamilton. If you're outside the GTA or both in and out, they do, and I don't believe this section is in the Google Doc. So when you get to the portal, you might see this. And if you didn't see it in the Google Doc, I didn't include it. They do want to know what area specifically. So if you're in Toronto or Peel, and so what is the community size? So based on if you're in a rural community or a mid-size or a suburb or metropolitan area over 100,000, you can check off that. And if you've already been running your program, you can upload pictures or explanations of your program. Not so much explanations, but I don't know if you might have you probably haven't done like a report or a strategic plan. So if you've taken pictures of work that you've done, or maybe flyers that you've used to invite people to the work that you've done, I would upload those. Just gives a bit of supporting documents. It says provide link to pictures. I don't know how you do that, because I think you can just upload the picture itself. But maybe if you're uploading something like a PDF that would have pictures in it, you can do that. Like links to even articles. I would say anything that is a supporting document, I would upload it here. This would also be, because for supporting documents, letters of support are also good to upload. So this would be a good place to upload letters of support that you might have from organizations or testimonials from past participants in your programs. This would be a good place to put it in. All right. So when we go to the next section, which is the project impact section, so they do want you to identify which is the main priority outcome that aligns with the YOF priority outcome that you're going for. So when you're writing your grant, it's very important to write your grant based on this priority that you select. If you select a priority and the grant does not speak to it, that will cause confusion with the person that is reading your grant and like the reviewer. And typically I've seen it gets declined just because the wording didn't match the priority that you selected. And it does get tricky if your project touches on multiple priorities. So if it does, you really have to hone in on one and really lean in and explain that one. So for us, for example, we support youth leaving the justice system and navigating resources, but we also create a safe space for Black youth to build a strong community and cultural connection. And there's one more about, yes. So supporting Black newcomer youth to enter the labor market and transition to sustainable career pathways. So you'll see our program, Teaching Youth Entrepreneurship, that is youth coming out of detention centers, helps to create a safe space. It involves youth leaving the justice system, and it also helps create a sustainable career pathway. but our main focus is helping them enter the labor market and transition to sustainable career pathways. So the majority of our application is talking about that. Yes, it mentions that we do work with youth that are coming out of justice system. And yes, we do mention that it creates a safe space and they're able to work from our office and, you know, build community and connections. But the main focus is them entering the labor market and transitioning to a sustainable career pathway, which we feel entrepreneurship is a great bridge to that and a great tool that can help them start earning money right away rather than struggling to get into the labor market. So when we're writing our application for our program, we really focus on this priority and the other ones are bonus. If you try to cater to more than one, it gets very confusing. All right, let's see. Okay, so identify the main population of the primary beneficiaries. So this is where you can check off who you're serving directly. And then the age, so yes, the age is 12 to 29 is what they consider youth. So under 12 is a bit too young for this type of funding, and over 29 is too old for this type of funding. So that's not to say that those youth that are above 30 and under 12 can't participate at all, but the target of your program needs to be youth between 12 and 29. And that's where you would check it off here and then talk a bit more about the people in your group who will, the young people that your group will engage through this project. Again, you're gonna go deeper into their lived experiences, and I'm covering my own stuff, and how they're affected by the issues that you would like to address. And then you do need to describe the impact, and they use that with change statements. So for each state change, the statement should be clear and concise and should reflect the change you want to address or achieve through your selected priority outcome. So this again, so you have to do a minimum of 3 changes that you want to see. You can do a max of 6, but these changes should tie into the priority that you chose. So if you selected a priority that was enter the labor market, but the main changes that I started talking about are youth are going to be able to make connections and develop mentor relationships. Youth are going to be able to have more confidence because they go to a safe space that they can work out of. Those changes are more focused on this priority, creating a safe space. So as you're going through this, if you realize the change that you want to see actually aligns with a different priority, you need to go back and change that priority, because if you picked one, but the changes and everything that you're talking about in the document aligns with a different one, they won't make the change for you. Like, even though the grant reviewers are smart and they can see what you're doing aligns with whichever priority that they have, you have to pick that priority and speak to it. And yes, I've had many an argument with grant reviewers about common sense. It's like, clearly you can touch on multiple ones, but you have to be very purposeful about the priority that you select and how you're writing about it in the group, in the application. And then they do ask you, how many youth do you expect to directly impact? And it does give a bit of a guideline. So only include the number of youth who will participate in your project activities. So if conducting a research project, only include the young people who make up the project's research team. So including the group members and researchers, analysts, and any youth who plays a consistent and significant role in your research project. So only count a young person once, even if you will have multiple touch points with them. If approved for funding, this number will be included in the grant contract. So for example, if you have funding for 2 years, your project runs on a 10-week cycle, you plan to have 15 youth participate in each cycle, you plan to deliver 2 cycles per year, the number of youth you will directly impact is 15. So 15 youth times 2 cycles per year times 2 years of funding. So for example, with us, we have a youth entrepreneurship cohort. So if we're expecting 10 to come to our cohort and the cohort is 8 weeks, we don't count the 10 youth 8 times. If there's an event that we're doing as part of the programming, so the 10 youth would be counted that are going through the cohort. And let's say there's 20 that are going to come to a specific event in addition to those 10 youth. So in total, we would have impacted 30, but you can't count the same youth coming to multiple things. So that's why, and then if you do it for 2 years, it would be 30 times 2. So just keep that in mind. I do see a question that says, okay, can we, so we can focus on 3. Millionaire Mommy, which 3 are you talking about? Is this the change one?
Yeah, because I know you said that we have to focus on 1, but then you said that we can mention 3, if I understood correctly. Because I know we have to just
Voice is low.
focus. Oh no, it could be me. Better?
That's better, yes.
Sorry, I had my headphones in. But I know that you were saying that sometimes they will deny if you're not kind of catering or aligning your project to the outcome.
Mm.
But then you said that you can have 3 outcomes that you're focusing on. Is that correct?
Okay, so 1 priority outcome, which is
Yeah.
out of these, and then within that priority outcome, you
Yeah.
need to have a minimum of 3 changes that you want to see based on that priority.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, so
Understood.
it's all about that one thing that you pick.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then build around that.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Thank you.
Yo, my pleasure. Thank you, thank you. Let's see. So we're gonna go to the next page here. So now the process, this is where you're gonna ask, do you want 1, 2, or 3 years of funding? And the project plan and the budget. So the project plan and the budget, I'm gonna open it up, but before I open it up, I want to share with you the templates that we created so it makes it easier for you. Oh, was there a question? Or no question? All right. So if you come to this spreadsheet, okay, cool. If you come to this spreadsheet, you'll notice there's a few tabs. So there's 2 specific tabs that you need to focus on. And same thing, you can come up here to File, and then you can make a copy. And you'll notice that there's sample completed ones and then a blank one. So also same thing with the work plan. There's a sample completed one, grassroots, and then a work plan. But you'll also notice that there is a budget sample for a business focused grant and a budget sample for a grassroots focused grant. So business focused is if the grant is specific for businesses. So similar to like the American Express grant that we talked about before, or the Desjardins one, or the Raise one. So they're gonna ask you specific questions about how you're spending money for your business. And then the grassroots one is how you're spending money for a project, a community project. So for the Youth Opportunities Fund, you wanna focus on this grant example, the grassroots one. And same thing for the work plan, you wanna focus on the grassroots one. And now with the grassroots one, I'm gonna open up the project plan so you can see what it looks like in the portal. But these are questions that you're gonna, it's sometimes difficult to answer the questions in the actual project plan itself. So that's where we created the template. Oh, where's my template? So with this template, you can use it to then go through the question, go through the year. So based on how many years your project is, and give it the timelines. So let me open. So for year one, this is where you'd pick what it is, the project deliverable. So let's say you're doing project planning, you would explain developing curriculum, when will the activity take place. So if projects start November 1st, 2024, your planning would typically be that first month. And then how frequent, you can say it's for the weekly. And when it asks you how many youth will participate, it might only be the 2 or 3 core youth that are in the group, because they would be working on putting together the curriculum. And what expense items, so that might be the staffing or volunteers and any other resources that you might need. So in this document, this is where you can put, this is happening in year one. We're doing project development, program development. So for us, now the dates are going to change. So start date is November 2024. So how many participants, 2 youth that are in the core, who's going to be in charge of it, and what resources do you need? So the resources that you need, you have to remember that for when we're doing the budget, but I'll tie it in a sec. But I just want to make sure you understand how to fill out this work plan. So you're pretty much, you have to understand what are the milestones that you need to do for your program. So for this organization, for the Knighthood Academy, we needed to develop the program. Then we needed to do outreach to recruit youth to the program. We then needed to execute the program, which was a 12-week cohort. And then we did a group presentation. So the participants would do like a group activity, which was a presentation. And then we needed to have speakers come in, and we did one-on-one accountability sessions. And then we did a celebratory event at the end of the cohort. And then we did an evaluation. So all of these dates that are in here would now have to align with the fiscal years for this funding. So it's going to go from starting in November. Typically the fiscal year ends in March. So you probably don't have to match it directly to March, but between November and October would be 1 year. And then after, again, November 2025. So if you're going to go into year 2, you probably wouldn't have to do program development again, but you would do evaluation and editing. So that would be November 2025. And then the same thing again, you would do outreach for participants, you'd execute the programming, if there's any additional activities that you're doing, and a celebration event evaluation. So for 3 years, you would put those milestones for 3 years. And then when you finish it in the budget, you can then come over to the portal and put in each of those things. So it'd be project planning, we're gonna do the recruitment, we're gonna do the actual training, the group workshops, and then we're gonna do a ceremony, and then we're gonna do the, what did we do last? Evaluation. Where's the evaluation? There's no evaluation. Well, I guess we'll just leave that. And that would be, so you do that for each year. So that would be the project plan. All right. And as I'm going to jump to the budget. So is there anyone stuck with how to use the budgets or the work plan section? So as I mentioned, you're pretty much going to be identifying the key milestones of your project and then giving them timelines and the resources needed to execute it. Just slow down there as I slowly go over to now the budget section. All right. So with the budget section now, and I'll open it up in the portal so you can just see what it looks like. So there's specific categories in the budget. So there's capacity building, which does have a minimum 2,000, maximum 4,000. So you do have to put capacity building dollars into your grant. You have your staffing, which can be full or part-time, your core project expenses, and then administration. So the administration is the fee that you're paying to your organizational mentor to be your trustee. So you'll see they auto-populated at 15%. So that will just automatically go in once you hit save. But if we do an example, so let's say capacity building is going to be 2,000, staffing, we're going to have a full-time person for, what is this, 4,000. We're going to have project expenses like we need a space. The space is 6,000 for the year. And we could use, let's say, food. That'll be 1,200 for the year. And if you hit save, oh, I need notes. Jeez Louise. All right, so when you hit save, then it'll show you that based on your budget, 8,000 is 15% of like all the expenses. So the budget for that year would be 58,800. But before you do it in the portal, I typically encourage people to do it in the spreadsheet first. That way you can calculate what you actually need for your project. So how much staffing do you need? Do you need full-time or part-time people? What are the actual project expenses? So for our project, it was we're paying the participants an honorarium. We needed to develop the curriculum, and we needed to do the recruitment, and we needed to do the evaluation. We paid for training, we paid for staff transportation, participants transportation. We need to pay for space, supplies, food, translation services, and I said space. Oh, for the celebration. So putting it into the spreadsheet allows you to see what is the budget that you need for your project. Then you would transport this into the portal one by one. So for staffing, we said we needed, let's see, a full-time project director, a manager, and a secretary. So you'd add director, full-time manager, and secretary. Oops. Secretary. And then the project expenses. So I won't do them all, but you'll see we had the recruitment, the evaluation. Actually, did it show evaluation? You probably have to put other, and then we just say that it's evaluation. But one thing to keep in mind for evaluation, the Youth Opportunities Fund does connect you to an organization that helps you do evaluation. So you might not have to put dollars for evaluation because you're going to get support from that. But for other things like the space, food, the honorariums, you would just put each of them, total it all up, and then the admin fee will automatically populate. So if, as we saw, the total amount, the max that we can ask for is, just to make sure, so for 1 year is 100,000, that means that the max operating expenses you can have is about 85,000, because technically 15% of 100,000 is the 15, but when you actually calculate it, well, of course, because then you'd go over 100,000. So with the 15% included, it needs to total 100,000. So for example, if you have 85,000 times 15%, that equals 12,750. So that plus 85,000 is actually 97,750. So you do have a bit of wiggle room. So if we, let's say now go to 87,000 operating times 0.15, that's 13,050. Oh my gosh. So that's like, so we do equals plus 80, oh no, 87,000. That's $100,050. So it's just a bit less than 87,000. Let's try 86,500 just to see if we can actually calculate this in real time. So 86,500 times 0.15 is 12,975 plus 86,500. All right, so that's pretty close. 99,475. So if you want to use a target, so in this budget, oops. So when you're working on your budget, to keep it under 100,000 and still pay the 15% admin fee, your total shouldn't come up to more than $86,500. I would use that as a guideline. So $86,500 plus the 15% admin fee, you're going to get about $99,475. So keep that in mind. Do not go over 86,500 in expenses, in operating expenses. Let's see, operating expenses. So you even see here, we totaled more than 100,000, so I'd have to fix it. So don't go over 86,500, so that when you add your 15% admin fee for your organizational mentor, you are under 100,000. And you'll notice that the portal automatically does 15%. So even if you run into a very nice organizational mentor and they say it'll only be 10%, they really have to do 15% because you can't do the budget properly at 10%. So do your budget expecting the 15% is going to go to admin. Right? So we'll save that. Actually, I probably won't be able to save it because I didn't do it properly without my budget notes. Oh, no, let me do it. Okay, cool. So when we come out of the portal budget, then we are going to go to the next section, which is about your organizational mentor. So when you initially do your expression of interest, you do not have to have your organizational mentor just yet. But here you'll see it gives you till June the 19th to find your organizational mentor. So definitely before the final applications due, but by June the 19th, you should have your organizational mentor fine-tuned, and anybody that you find to be your trustee that doesn't have an account with Trillium already, they have until the 19th to register their organization. So keep that in mind. If you know an organization that you might want to work with, let them know that they have to log in, and they can log in right now, it's open, and apply to be an organizational mentor. So if you say yes, they will ask you for the information. If you say no, then they'll ask you, do you need help to find one? So if you say yes, OTF and the Youth Opportunities Fund, they'll actually let you know who in their database can be an organizational mentor for you. If you say no, that means that you have somebody in mind and you just need to finalize it. Now, when it goes to the last section, this is really just acknowledging attesting for the application itself. So you acknowledge that the majority of the core members identify and share identities and experiences with youth that we want to engage within the project. We acknowledge that our group has at least 3 core group members. We acknowledge that more than 50% of our core group members are at arm's length relationship to each other. We acknowledge that all project activities will take place in Ontario. And they said if our project is approved for funding, our group agrees to participate in YOF-led capacity building activities. So typically they will have either workshops or retreats that you'd have to go to with your team for their capacity building activities. If your project is approved for funding, our group agrees to participate in YOF evaluation process led by an external partner. So this is what I was talking about with the evaluation. We actually don't need to do evaluation here because the YOF grants, they connect you with an evaluation company already. If your project is approved for funding, our group agrees to work with an organizational mentor, as we talked about in the previous section, and the information contained in this application and the accompanying documents is true, accurate, and complete. So that is the overall walkthrough of the Youth Opportunities Fund. What I'm gonna do is stop the recording so that if you need to ask specific questions for your company, your organization, I'm here to answer, but that concludes the overview of the Youth Opportunities Fund grants and the templates that we use to support people in writing their grants.